asking the right questions that lead me to sell them the perfect collection that I have. So, you know, I wasn't always, in the beginning I did this, I would show all my collections and say, okay, which one do you want? But now it's a little bit more refined and saying, okay, well, what do you need?
Let's do this. We're rolling. But yeah, Melissa, excited to have you here on the podcast WLMA Weddings and Wine, and been really excited to bring you on the show as well because of your particular situation that you started from and were able to get out of as well. Because I know you were working a 9-to-5 job. You're able to leave it, go full time. This year, consistently hit 5-figure months, which is absolutely awesome. So far, yes. The stats of what we have, what you told me, you're about just $7,000 away from hitting 6 figures.
Yeah.
And 3 international awards. So much has been happening this year as well. So first off, I just want to say congrats. Really exciting.
Thanks, Jordan. Thank you. It's been crazy.
Yeah. But just diving in so people listening in get a little more of a background of, you know, where you came from, what's been going on with you. Tell us a little bit about your story. How do you get into the wedding business and where you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. So I had a little bit more experience in front of the camera, being a professional dancer for most of my adult life. So my 20s, I cheered in the NFL and in the NBA. So I had a lot of exposure to portrait photographers and, you know, calendar photo shoots and, you know, branding photo shoots and stuff for whatever team I was on at the time. So I really was drawn to that, and it was cool to see like a laid back environment where people get you, or people like me, uncomfortable in front of the camera, more comfortable in front of the camera. So that was kind of cool. And just being very aware as a dancer of facial expression and body movement and what looks good and what doesn't. You'd be surprised like how posing and dancer lines kind of go hand in hand sometimes. So it comes a little bit more naturally to me. Fast forward a couple years later, I started to do photography as a hobby. You know, it was something that I did in high school that I wanted to tap back into because you don't want work to be your only facet of life. You want to still kind of have a hobby and do things that you are passionate about. So I can't draw, I can't paint, I can't do anything artistic. So photography was my art. So I wound up buying a Canon 80D and doing portraits for friends on my cheer team because they're attractive girls and, you know, they like pictures of themselves. So it was pretty easy. And then it kind of grew into families and all that. And then once I did a first engagement session for a friend of mine, I kind of fell in love with that. Just being able to see the chemistry between two people. I'm a hopeless romantic, so that made me really happy. And then just getting, you know, some budget weddings here and there, dipping my foot in the door, seeing the challenges that came with it, but also being really excited about weddings. So I stumbled upon WLMA on Facebook and talking to you, Jordan, and meeting real wedding photographers or people just starting out too. So everybody on different levels, just getting a lot of creative criticism on my work, which I needed, and just diving into that, you know, just having a job that always has criticism and feedback. So just coming from that culture, I'm used to it. So just saying, how can I be better? So built my clientele through the engagement session, giveaways, you know, and then getting referrals from that. And, you know, the rest is history.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I like how you mentioned that. I never thought of that as well, where you kind of mentioned about, you know, dancing, really diving into, and it has so many similarities when it comes to posing, really making your couples and your models feel good and looking at the camera, getting those lines and everything in line. And when you, as soon as you shot like couples and, or maybe did your first wedding, did you know that that was the career path you wanted to take as soon, or how did that come about where you knew that that's the path that you wanted to go full time in?
I think for me, if we're being honest, I think that was going to be initially the quickest path to financial freedom was getting into the wedding market, where portraits a little bit hard in this market. And where I live in San Antonio, Texas, there's kind of a small group of, you know, portrait photographers that are the go-to that can charge really high prices and, you know, the go-to. And I know from my skill set, I wasn't there just yet. And with the the stuff I had to invest in to get that quality and studios and stuff like that, I wasn't there. So it was kind of I fell into it, but also I grew to love it a lot more than I ever thought I would.
That's awesome.
Because of the chemistry of people and engagements. It's the happiest time of your life. So a lot of the clients that I met are just so happy just to be there and to be engaged and go through that process, going through it myself. I'm able to relate on that level. And just, I think just over time, it grew to be the thing that I wanted to do, aside from, portraits.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So now, especially this right here, because I know there's a lot of people in this situation where maybe they're in a job where they want to get out of, they want to go into photography full time. And that was kind of where you were at. And I know it takes, because I was in the same boat as well, I know it takes a lot mentally and physically to work at a job full time and trying to grow this photography business full time on the side of that whenever you do have time. What specific challenges did you face when you were trying to do that, and how did you overcome that?
Yeah, I think one of the main challenges was the temptation of going full time when I wasn't ready. So I love the WLMA community and all the friends that I have here and all you guys and seeing all the success, but just hearing, just do it over and over again is exhausting. So I felt pressure at first, but I know myself and I know that other people were very respectful and they were just really supportive. So just getting out of that mindset of like, I have to do it right now, messed with me a little bit, but it doesn't mean that it's not possible. So, and a big challenge was the fact that I'm 110%er. So I'm not just going to like half butt one thing and the other in order to just get by. I have to go 100% in everything. So with my job, and I want to just throw out there, it wasn't a 9 to 5. I worked overnights and I worked warehousing hours. So I worked a lot of hours and I was in leadership. So I had a lot of responsibility. So I always, even in my corporate job that I still loved, even to this day, I'm like, oh, I loved, working that job. I just wanted to be the best. I wanted promotions. I wanted everything at that job and more, but I also wanted everything with photography. So I had to like juggle both, doing 100% with both as much as I could until I couldn't anymore.
Interesting.
So it was kind of a struggle to see my friends and peers in the photography community, living their best life, like having flexibility, having that travel, because they were the end result. They already did all the work to get there, but just seeing that and being like, I can do that too. I can do that too. And then struggling with the challenge of patience, to be able to work towards that. So I saw the success, and the only thing holding me back, from getting deeper into it at the time was the time that I needed back to do it. So I had to decide what I really wanted and how do I measure success and my own happiness. So I guess if you're like looking for the steps on how to get that, I had to decide what I wanted. So very practical things. So I knew for me, I wanted financial freedom. I was in debt, going through a divorce, student loans, credit cards, cars, whatever it is that I had. So I needed to do that first. I needed to pay off my debt first. I also knew that I didn't want managers. So I didn't want to have somebody above me telling me what to do, giving me deadlines, those kinds of things, because I know that I could do that on my own. And then mostly I wanted flexibility and freedom. So I wanted to create my own schedule. I wanted a good workflow that I can do and be in charge of. I wanted to control my off days. And then, of course, I wanted to do something that I love, which was photography. So I had to come up with a plan on like, how do I do all that together? How do I achieve that, and just being patient with it instead of just seeing everyone's highlight reel.
I hear you on that 100%. And everyone's journey really does look totally different in a way. And I relate to that in a way because for me, I can't say I loved my job before photography. I was like cleaning toilets.
No, I mean, I loved it, but I didn't love like management, I loved the leadership piece.
Yeah. And I knew at that time I couldn't just cut, clean dry out of my job I had at the time. There had to be a little bit of a push-pull that I had until I got into full-time weddings, making a certain income before I got rid of that janitor job. Yeah. And even when I started doing the WLMA, I was balancing shooting weddings, balancing the WLMA, and I got burnt out. And I was like, all right, what do I truly do love the most?
And you're married, so like
exactly.
Your personal life, like family, that is so, a big part of it too. We sacrifice 100%. A lot.
Exactly. Now, getting a feel of this as well, let me find that question as well. So as far as strategies when it came to your business that you personally felt, were the most helpful, what were some of the key business strategies that brought your business where it is today?
Yeah. I would say mostly authenticity and listening to my clients. So just having a social media presence and not always just doing what the other people are doing. So being authentic to me and, whatever that may be, if people like my personality, they want to just talk with me. So, but also when it comes to getting the business or getting the sale, it's asking the right questions that lead me to sell them the perfect collection that I have. So, I wasn't always, in the beginning I did this, I would show all my collections and say, okay, which one do you want? But now it's a little bit more refined and saying, okay, well, what do you need? And then I'll kind of show you what matches. And then I'll show you, the next level. Like if you also want this for just a couple hundred more, you can get this. Or if if you need to dial it back, we can dial it back here. So having a bit more direction and how I'm talking to them from a sales perspective where it doesn't feel like sales. That helped a lot, especially if I'm out of their budget. So if they're putting on their contact form a certain budget with the stuff that they want, it's a little bit more out. I can cater the conversation to that. However, if the answers don't point to photography as a top priority, this might not be a client that I want to work with, or it's going to be a difficult sell where I have to work a little bit harder, using the strategies in WLMA. But a lot of the times, if it's, a clear price shopper, that's something that I have to be like, okay with. This isn't a client for me.
Yeah.
And
100%.
sometimes you have to give those people up because then it becomes a headache later.
They'll equal like 10 clients.
Yes. No,
it's interesting
so
how
true.
that is.
Yep.
And so often, I guess what was really big when it came to those wedding consultations, really diving deep into discovery. So it's like, not only were you able to see what they wanted, they're kind of able to build some clarity on what they wanted, and you can guide them to the right place, the right packages, and they can resonate with that a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. And a couple other strategies I wanted to point on that I think some photographers are scared to do like every single time or offer every single time is payment plans. I love Honeybook payment plans, especially if this is a client you love and you may be out of their budget and they love you too, but they're kind of, it isn't always you're out of their budget. It's you're out of their monthly budget, It's sometimes that's what it is, So just, I always, no matter who it is, I offer the payment plan. And if photographers that are scared of that, make sure auto pay is activated. So you get paid regardless, they have to select it if they want that payment plan. So
exactly. So it's not like you're following up with invoices.
Yeah.
It's pretty much being able to pull it and everything. And that's so true.
It is. And being frank with it, like being upfront with them and saying like, hey, like this is a living, like I hope it's cool. Like this is something I offer. The only thing is it's auto pay. So if that's cool with you guys, it just feels like another credit card bill. So,
exactly.
and that's usually like, oh yeah, that makes sense. You have to eat, So seeing you as a human is a really big piece for me that helps, my business on a personal level, financially and mentally.
That's awesome. I love that as well, because usually I'll do like maybe I try not to break more than like 4 monthly payment plans. But if I'm connecting with a couple really well, it's worth it to kind of get that couple in there, especially if like they're vibing, they love everything about your work, but it's just a finance thing, and being able to work with them on something that extends a little bit longer and everything.
Yes. And just kind of showing them all the financial options for whatever it is you have to offer. If you want to be a higher ticket client and kind of broaden your range to people that may not always be on those luxury budgets.
Yeah, good. So now one thing I really wanted to touch on, which I saw something that was very unique with you, following you on Instagram as well. So you've done a really awesome job, not only building your brand, but also nurturing your leads through Instagram and specifically Reels as well. So if you were to break down steps on how photographers could find more success through Instagram and maybe figuring out what works for them with Reels and what's going to be getting attention, what would those steps be that you would tell someone?
Jordan, that's a trick question. You know, Instagram is just its own brain. I was dreading this question. I was so dreading of telling you that, or like leading you to see my reels and stuff like that. If you're watching and you see my reels, I'm so sorry. But no, like a big thing for reels is, again, authenticity. Like, who are you? You know, you don't have to just, you know, flash the pretty pictures with like the popular song. Like, that is nice, but for me, that doesn't get views. For me, it's, you know, whatever is on brand for me, and then kind of figuring it out. So again, I'm still trying to figure it out, but if I have to break down the steps, try things and find out what your audience trends and patterns are. So you can Google all day and they'll tell you, okay, Friday at noon, between noon and 3 is high traffic. And on the weekends, first thing in the morning, because that's what people are doing when they're waking up. That's not for everybody. For me, people are hopping on a Thursday afternoon for like at 10 a.m. I don't know why, in Houston specifically. So if I put my location as Houston and it's 10 a.m. on a Thursday, my reel goes viral. And it's something that I made in 20 seconds. So
interesting.
So for me, I'm still truly, honestly trying to figure it out. But I would say track your own trends and patterns and maximize on those. Experiment on stuff. So there's sometimes, you know, things that I want to do. I'll like write out the themes that I want to use on Instagram. So if it's going to be, okay, I want my next 3 posts to be engagement sessions, and then I want my next 3 to be wedding. The next one I want to be like a styled session and showcase you know, a cake or a venue or something like that. You know, tied up to around the holidays. So have like your themes kind of written out, maybe not the days because you don't really know what's going to hit. It's going to be whatever's convenient for your actual working schedule, but have your, you know, some consistency in that. And of course, like, don't get discouraged. So there's stuff that, you know, I'll work really hard on, or I'll find that perfect viral sound and it's really funny, or I think it's really funny, or I'm dancing like an idiot and I'm showing off and everything, and I work really hard on the transitions, and then it just tanks. And then something, you know, one that I made a couple of days ago, I made literally just because I was bored waiting for my boyfriend to finish getting ready for dinner, and it blew up and I had like 27,000 views or something like that.
That's so cool.
It happens all the time. It's always like when I'm just waiting and I have some idle time and I post it right away. Those are the ones for some reason that kind of blow up, where the other ones that I save for later, and then I pick that viral trend and then I send it out. Those ones don't do that great. So it's really just seeing like what works. Yeah.
Do you feel like the ones that you kind of just think about and just feels intuitive to you, so those are the ones that kind of just feel instant, intuitive? It feels you personally feel like you resonate with this. Those are the ones that often perform the best. Yeah,
because I'm doing them right away. It's like something I think of in that moment. I found a sound that I like. I found a filter that I liked. I do it. I nail it right away, and then I send it out, and then it blows up.
I love that. I love the fact that that's kind of what you found. What you found has been a pattern of where some of your most results come. Because it makes people, when people hear that, it makes people to think a little bit outside the box more, be a little bit more comfortable on what's authentically them, correct?
Yeah, and then you surprise yourself, so you don't know that that's what people like about you. Where me, it's like being goofy, or, you know, I'm usually making fun of myself as a photographer. is the ones that do really well. So it's but if that's what people like and that's what people are resonating, I'll fill it with the other stuff that are pretty and things that make me happy. But if people just want to see me go be weird, then great.
I've experienced that not with like much organic stuff when it comes to a lot of testing with ads, where I've had so many failed ads where I'm like, ooh, like I got inspired by something. I'm like, this is going to be like the perfect ad. It's going to absolutely kill it. Spend so much time putting together this ad, and it absolutely bombs. And then maybe I just change the headline. Maybe I just change the hook. Maybe I just make it shorter, or maybe it's something that, what you're saying, I kind of had the same experience with ads, where it's something that's kind of a little bit more intuitive that no one has done, and it kills it. Absolutely.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Sometimes it's don't try so hard. And I know sometimes that goes against like our WLMA like mentality, but sometimes it is intuitive. And I think that's the beauty
100%.
of advertising. That's the beauty of marketing, is you have to really be in connection with the people that are watching you. So if you step away from that, it might, lead to less traffic on your page.
Yeah, I love that. And getting a feel of this as well. I know that this is something that you mentioned when it comes to workflow, when it comes to being having a minimalist workflow. What exactly did you mean by having a minimalist workflow? How does that benefit you?
I would say, long story short, Honeybook saved my life. But it starts with a very quick yet thorough contact form. So I had to, over the years, come up with, for me, the perfect contact form, which obviously is still in progress because everything can always get better. And, have everything get into Honeybook before I even talk to the client. So preparing that proposal for them, before you even get in front of them. So even with Instagram, if people are hitting me up saying, oh, how much for a wedding? And that's the only sentence they send me, sending that contact form right away. Nothing's automated. It really takes me 2 seconds. Just a simple, hey, here's my contact form. We could talk more about it. Sometimes I'll send a video to say hello. So nothing too crazy. And then responding within 24 hours to schedule that Zoom. If they don't respond after 2 days, I can follow up with the social account that they gave me because they're giving me permission to contact them through that. So I'll reach back out to them, those kinds of things. And then if they don't respond to that, I can send that to and send another email reminder throughout the week. And then if I'm ghosted from there, I'm going to archive it and not worry about it. So I'm not going to beg people to talk to me. It's just one of those things where you have to grow thick skin and kind of move on to those people that are there, because at the end of the day, if you're a high ticket and you have, these high ticket goals in your mind, there are 15 to 20 people out there that want to book you for a wedding next year. So I'm not going to sit and beg this one person that's price shopping to come talk to me. So that might bite me in the butt later, but it's worked for me so far. And then I'll reach out to
I think it's a great
others.
mentality, especially because, there's only so much you can follow up, and there's kind of a point where it's like you just have to leave it up to your retargeting if they're in your nurturing funnel kind of a thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, and especially if you continue filling up that pipeline, there's always going to be a lot more fish in the sea when it comes to those leads. So I'm guessing, what did before, especially you went more minimalist with your programs and everything when it came to Honeybook? What did running your business look like before that? Before
Honeybook, it was more so like sending the PDF with my prices and then never hearing from them again. That's pretty much what it was. Or, it really wasn't as much interaction, honestly. Yeah, I would say it was just kind of like the standard stay behind or try to hold the text conversation and try to get them to to get that stuff out of me. So it's just like more like a lot of back and forth rather than get the information up front, talk to them, get to know them, because that's so important for me. And then, seal the deal there.
I hear you. And so how did you what are one way that you've been able to get more of the couples to get to know you, get in those consultations with you so they can actually get to know you as well?
Yeah. It's, like I said, it's the contact form, getting that information, getting them on the call, approaching the Zoom call more like an introduction than the sale. So I really talk to them or ask them the questions that I do want to know, like truly, like, so this isn't even a sales tactic for me. It's, how did you guys meet? How did the proposal go down? How is everybody with your families? Like, I want to know what kind of environment we're going to be in at the wedding. Like, I want to know the family structure. I want to know what your friends are like. I want to know what you guys like to do for fun. To the point where sometimes, I don't have like the paid for Zoom, like that we have to go over the 40 minutes, but it's because it's happening so naturally. It's not like I'm holding them on the call. We're literally starting to become friends. they ask me about my background and the weddings, and we go through galleries if they ask. So it's really not as much structure as you probably want to hear, but it's like, it's how that flow happens. So, hey, do you want to see galleries, or do you want to just go right into the dollars and cents? Like, how much time do you guys have tonight? And usually we don't start talking about numbers until they bring it up. So sometimes they'll just realize, oh my gosh, like, okay, like, yeah, I guess we can talk about the wedding now, like, and then we've already built that relationship. And at that point, it's hard for either of us to really say no or not. Yeah. So
exactly.
We do whatever.
By the time you bring up the prices, it's not even awkward as well, correct?
Yeah, exactly. So that's when we get to it. So if I try to pay a lot more attention to body language once the prices come up. And if I notice like they look at each other, or, they start doing, stuff like that, I'll be like, okay, what's on your mind? You can tell me, and then just see what they're thinking. Yeah, because sometimes it's just like, oh, well, we don't really need an album, but, can we swap that out with this instead? And then it's like, it's not the price that they're wincing at. They just don't need this add-on, or, they want more time. So it's just, how do you solve their problem right then and there, to be able to still get that sale and work for them.
Yeah, I love that as well, that you mentioned that, especially when you see the body language, because that's so important. When most people get into sales, it's very robotic.
Yeah.
It's, follow this script, etc. But then once you start getting really good at it, you start transitioning from what I call script sales to behavioral sales.
For sure.
And then when you see that body language, there's something wrong. And when you're just up front and you ask them, hey, what's on your mind?
Yeah.
Oh, it's budget. Oh, it's my parents, or whatever it is. Then you can start working on those, whatever those issues are. Oh yeah, why didn't you say it was money? What if we did do a payment plan for you? Would that be something that would be helpful?
Exactly.
Boom.
Yeah, and it helps, because then even stuff like that, I can talk about payment plans all day, but like you can get more people involved in it if it's a budgeting thing or whatever. But yeah, that is something that I'm very grateful for having my degree in education and for being in leadership for so long. Like, I understand those like soft skills where I feel like I do have a leg up from other photographers who are strictly artists and, want to make the big money and want to have the great posts and stuff, because, these are people too with budgets. They're planning a wedding. Like, this stuff is expensive no matter how much money you have. So, of course the natural reaction is going to be, some type of way, especially if you don't know me that well. And then that tells me, how can I do better to make them feel more comfortable? So I'm a yes all the time, no matter who it is. So
that's awesome. Love that. Now, this is a question I like to ask a lot of the students as well. So people who are kind of in tough situations can kind of get into your mind.
Yeah.
So let's say you have to go back in time. You maybe move to a new city, and you're in a situation where you had to work a current job before you could get into weddings full time again. Knowing the things you know now, and yes, having the portfolio, all that stuff you have now, knowing the things you know now from your experience, what would you do to get your business back on track even faster than you did before?
Yeah, the key word there is faster. I think because I truly feel like I did the right things. I just didn't do it soon enough. I feel like my confidence held me back a little bit. I feel like I could have quit my job a year ago. Had I just taken risks to dig myself out of a financial hole. I feel like if I had the skill set now that I have now, and I had to start in a new city, I would have to make sure that I'm financially prepared. So at risk of this sounding like a financial talk, like as an adult human being, which a lot of us are that are trying to get into this world, I would say like, just make sure I am financially ready to like live off of a certain amount of money before I take that leap, So just
I think that's so important as well though, too, because a lot of people, maybe they don't see the difficulties, the challenges, and what it really takes to build a business,
Yes.
And maybe they leave a little bit too early, get themselves in a little bit of a tougher situation.
Yes, it is like, because you can make a lot of money doing this, but you have to think of things that you won't have, that you did have, in a corporate environment or working for a corporation, like insurance and, all that kind of stuff that adds up later on when you're a sole business owner. So you have to kind of think of the taxes, like all that stuff that I had to learn the hard way over and over again, because in my head, I was like, oh yeah, I got all this money now. And then now I'm like, oh, where did it go? You know? So yeah, exactly. So it's just being safe and being smart about it. I just wanted to make sure, you know, if I do move and I have to start again, make sure that all my ducks are in a row. Like I paid off whatever debt that I have to, that I can handle starting new and building, you know, rebuilding that clientele again, getting back into, you know, giveaways and vendor partnerships and those kinds of things. And even now I should be doing more of that stuff now, but, you know, but now I'm being more respectful of my time and my mental to make sure I'm taking care of my current clients that I'm going through for 2023. But yeah, sacrificing my profits to pay off the debt, continue to do that, improve my portfolio, go back through old stuff and post that, but with like new locations and social media. So being very more, like a lot more, I would say, intentional than I was before. I was just kind of like, sometimes, not all the time, just like throwing stuff at the wall to see what sticks, you know, and then hoping somebody likes it, and like, you know, just getting that creative help from my peers, where I feel like I could have done a lot more on my own. You know, just being more intentional and smart about the choices I was making.
I hear you. Love that. Love that. Let's say you had to break it down into a couple tactics that you know you would focus on the most, say within that first 180 days, maybe in a new city. What would that look like?
Meet other local photographers, I would say, because that gets you into that world. So put yourself out there and get that creative feedback for that area. Get educated. So I would say try the marketing and sales tactics and, you know, free giveaways. I think that's really, really important to build that clientele. And then, you know, improve that portfolio. And then, you know, refine your customer service experience. So find out who's out there and, you know, rebuild that clientele that way. And then cushion yourself financially to revive that business over into this new space. And then I feel like that's kind of like a good way to get out there and thrive a bit better. But I feel like leaning on your community is really important too.
I hear you. Love that. No, that's so true as well. So number one, just kind of grabbing the all in, really getting in the photographers community so you can really expand that network there. Two, maybe especially in the beginning when it comes to things like giveaways, gives you opportunities to work with a lot of different couples to build relationships quickly.
Yes.
And then building that kind of safety net as well as financially so you can use that capital, keep pushing forward and everything, correct?
Yeah.
Love that. Love that. So now for photographers that are struggling, what would you say is one piece of advice you have for photographers out there struggling to grow their business? Maybe they want to leave their current job as well. What's one piece of advice you would give them?
I would say I would tell them that your success will happen when you allow it to happen. So in other words, you're in 100% control of your professional timing, your finances, your brand, how you treat people, and how you present yourself to your clients, to peers in the community, to vendors, and on social media. So it goes beyond your talents. It's more on you and how you control all of those things for your successful business. So if you really want it, you have to have all of those things aligned in order to be successful and quit that job.
Love that. Love that. And where can we find you as well?
All over the place. So you can find me on Instagram at Stella Shots Media. StellaShotsMedia.com is my website, currently in progress, but I still have my contact form available. And I travel all over the country and all over the world now. On Facebook, I'm Stella Shots Media LLC, and I'm based out of San Antonio. And I do a lot of work in Long Island, New York, and I hope to see more people soon.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much, Melissa. That was amazing. I'll make sure to add your stuff in the bio of this video as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you.